Have you ever wondered if the Bible's numbers are realistic? One of the biggest questions people have is about the Exodus. The Bible says the Israelites were in Egypt for 215 years. They started with just 79 people, and by the time they left, there were over 1 million of them. Skeptics often say, "No way, that's impossible." But is it? Let's run the numbers and see if the math actually holds up. First, how many Israelites really left Egypt? The book of Numbers, chapter 1, gives us a detailed census. It counts all the men aged 20 and up, from 12 of the tribes. The grand total comes to 603,550 men. But that's just the men. What about the tribe of Levi, which wasn't included in that military count? Of course, this tally doesn't include women. If we assume a roughly equal number of men and women, our population now doubles to 1.3 million adults. But wait, there's more. The census only counted those aged 20 and over. What about the children and teenagers? In that era, a typical lifespan was around 70 years. If we assume an even distribution across age groups, that means about 27% of the population, those 19 and under, weren't counted. When we add them in, the total Israelite population at the time of the Exodus balloons to nearly 1.8 million people. So the big question is, can a group of 79 people grow to almost 1.8 million in just 215 years? This is where it gets really interesting. Let's build a population model based on the information the Bible gives us. Exodus chapter 1 repeatedly emphasizes that the Israelites were exceedingly fruitful and multiplied greatly. This suggests a very high birth rate, far from what we see today. Let's make some reasonable assumptions for that time period. Let's say the average lifespan was 70 years, and families were having children for about half of that time. Given the text's emphasis on explosive growth, let's propose an average of 10 children per family. Finally, let's assume a generation length of about 35 years, meaning people would live to see, on average, half of their grandchildren born. Plugging these numbers into a population growth calculation, what do we get after 215 years? The estimated population comes out to about 1,770,000 people. That's incredibly close to our earlier estimate of 1.8 million based on the census in numbers. It's practically a perfect match. And remember, these are just averages. If the average family had just slightly more children, say 10.1 instead of 10, the final population would grow by tens of thousands more. But there's another factor we haven't even considered: intermarriage. The Bible mentions several instances where Israelites married non-Israelites like Joseph and Moses themselves. If even a small percentage of Israelites, say 5%, married Egyptians who then joined the Israelite community, the population would have grown even faster. With that small 5% rate of intermarriage, the population could have easily reached over 2.3 million people. What's fascinating is that this 215-year timeline fits the biblical narrative much better than the longer 430-year sojourn theory some propose. To get the same population numbers over 430 years, families would only need to have about 4 children each. A growth rate like that would hardly be considered the population explosion that so alarmed the Pharaoh, as described in Exodus. The Egyptians were worried because the Israelites were multiplying at an incredible, noticeable rate. The 215-year model, with a high birth rate, perfectly explains Pharaoh's alarm. So, far from being an impossible number, the population of the Israelites at the Exodus is entirely plausible when you look at the statistics. The math actually supports the biblical account, showing that with the conditions described, a small family could indeed grow into a great nation in 215 years. It's another example of how the details in the Bible, even the numbers, are more consistent and realistic than you might think. Thanks for watching. If you found this interesting, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the historical details of the Bible. See you next time.